Oh boy, what up, what up, what up? Hello and welcome everyone to episode 47 of the Backwards K Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Asbrock, and I possibly might be joined by my co-host, Scott Kaiser. I have no idea. We are going through hell right now when it comes to technical difficulties. So this might be it. We have no idea. We have no idea what's going to be coming your way today.
We're going to be taking this podcast minute by minute because my internet, that's as good as it can get it. But hi, Chris. How's it going, bud?
Well, I'm not too bad. How about yourself?
You're probably better than my internet. I'm slightly better than my internet, I suppose. But it's been a while, so we've got some things to discuss and catch up on over the last about month. It's been now, it seems like, or close to it since we had the shows.
We've both attended games on Monday nights. I was sick last week.
Yeah. So, I had internet issues 2 weeks ago that completely prevented it. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. I forgot about that too. Yeah. So it's been probably 4 weeks since we've had it, 3 or 4 weeks since we've had a show.
Yeah, I think so.
Man.
And Scott pointing out Scott's consistently inconsistent internet. Scott knows. Yep. It's back at it again. And I think it dislikes when I'm trying to host on this thing. I don't know if it takes up more bandwidth or what, but that's all I can think about. That's an issue at this point. But let's go on ahead and get into things before it boots me off again. We're going to talk about the Jays, who have just completely flown into the collective hearts of all of us baseball fans by taking over the American League. We're going to talk about the trade deadline that came and went and was wild and frenetic and somehow still didn't move a whole lot of big names. And then we're going to talk about the disaster that was our Reds and Braves meeting up for the Speedway Classic down at Bristol. Just a mess, both on and off the field that they constructed down there for Major League Baseball. So let's go on ahead and get things started, though, by talking about the Jays. Man, your Jays, the Surgent Jays since about the end of June, or honestly, really, since the last time we had a show. The Jays just started winning, took over first place in the AL East, never really stopped, and it's been to the joy of both you and I, because the Yankees at the same time have faded. God, and you and I have talked about this off the show and in between everything. We went from discussing the Jays possibly needing to tear everything down come the end of this season because it looked like they weren't going to re-sign Vlad to a long-term deal. That's since been taken care of. You know, we've talked about plenty of times the fact that in the offseason there's been a lot of guys who've rebuffed their money, including Shohei and others. And then, to start this season, things were just kind of a mess, and it looked like it was like all hands on deck for a full sell-off. Now they're the class of the American League. Tell us what you've seen out of Canada, the Jays, and is this for real? Is this it? Are the Jays going to do it this time, man?
Dude, they very well could, man. Right now, the best team in the American League, currently sitting at 69-50.
Nice.
Dude, this team was so hot, man. At one point, man, it was awesome. They just they caught right at the time, when they swept the Yankees in that 4-game series at home for the first time, and then it just seemingly was just, it just kept rolling. And they're getting great play from everyone. The pitching's been solid. You're getting solid play from everyone in the field there as well. It's great to see. Now they're 6-4 in their last 10. I'm going back here, trying to get everything pulled up. But here's, what it comes down to is this team is tearing it up at home. They're 38-19 at the Rogers Center. And this was a house of horrors, it seemed like last year for Toronto. Completely flip-flopped this year. They, like I said, they've just been dominant at home. And that goes a long way because they're currently 500 on the road. So you got to win your games at home, man. That is your home ballpark. That is your home fortress. You've got to defend it, and that's what Toronto's been doing. Getting, like I said, solid play from all around. This team's deep. They've got plenty of talent, and it's fun to watch. They've got the veteran leadership. And Max Scherzer, who is, he hasn't been the best, but he's been there. And a guy like that in your clubhouse, and they just traded for for Shane Bieber, which we'll touch on in the, when we talk about the trade deadline. But they bring in a guy like him who had yet to be in the majors at all this year, coming off of Tommy John. They trade him, trade for him, bring him in. Bo's been playing like Bo Bichette, like the Bo that we expected. Now the question is, are they able to sign him after bringing Vladdy in on that huge contract, right in February? This is a lot of fun right now. If you get a chance to watch Toronto, tune in. Like I said, they've got plenty of talent, and they're getting contributions all around. And teams like that win when you're getting it from everywhere. It's fun, and it's hard to stop a team. And this was a team with no expectations. I think going into it, I mean, my expectations were for them to tear it up last year, and it went off the rails last year. And then I was just kind of tempering everything because I didn't think, with the Vladdy extension and whether they were going to get that done going into it. I think I had them third or fourth in the division, and here they are. I mean, they're best team in the American League. So all it takes is a little bit of confidence and playing, how you believe you can play, and rolling from there and getting contributions, like I said, from all around. That's what Toronto's getting. And like I said, best team in the American League right now. If you'd have told me that, at the beginning of April, I'd have said you're out of your mind. And here we are. So
not to mention the fact that Anthony Santander, the big offseason pickup, paid him all that money, has done absolutely nothing and spent most of the season on the injured list. That's to add to all the craziness of the season. You would have thought if he was a failure like he has been so far in the first year of the deal, that they would be sunk even further. But the emergence of Addison Barger has helped. He's come on really strong since coming up in mid-May, and he's stuck around and played really, really well. And obviously you mentioned that they did trade for Shane Bieber at the deadline, but they also added quite a few bullpen pieces to strengthen the bullpen as well. And it's almost like they flipped a switch, and these are the Jays that we had been promised for like the last 3 or 4 years, like the Jays that everybody thought that were going to emerge when they had first kind of started this whole thing. It was like, yeah, man, they've got this young core. They've signed guys. They're headed in the right direction, and it seemed like, they were growing pains and they kept coming up short, but it seemed like the window was wide open for them. And then all of a sudden, just as quickly, it appeared as if it had closed. Now, everything is kind of taken a turn, and we'll see what they end up doing the offseason by way of Bichette. And if he does end up sticking around, who knows? But I got to imagine that if you're a Toronto fan in the moment, you're not really concerned about it because of the play that they've been getting for the last month and a half. Like, it's been incredible. And like I said, kind of out of nowhere, just because of the expectations and the way the season started. It was just kind of dreadful.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. You mentioned Santander, but before that, they brought in Jeff Hoffman, who at that time when they brought in Jeff Hoffman was their big signing in the offseason. Yeah. And this dude has been, 26 saves, has been absolutely lights out at the end of games. And, it's been basically a three-headed monster between Chris Bassett, Kevin Gossman, as the starters, but then you add Jeff Hoffman in the back end of it. I mean, it's been phenomenal to watch. And then you still got a guy like Jose Barrios, in this rotation. And it's, they've got a lot of depth. And I'm telling you, man, if they can continue to believe, and they're feeling it right now. And, with ownership going out there and acquiring a few pieces, to add to this ball club, wow. You're at a point now to where they can just continue to keep rolling. And go ahead, I can see you.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I was like, hopefully they will, is all I was thinking. Yeah. Because as I look at, the standings and the way things are kind of set up, Let's talk about the rest of the American League since we're on it. The Tigers kind of slowed down a little bit from the pace that they had been on early in the year. Still right behind Toronto for the best record in the American League, just a game behind. But, stumbled a little bit while the Jays had started their surge. The Astros still atop their division. 2.5 games back of the Jays for the top record. And then the Mariners, who also decided to start winning a whole lot of games, surged back up just behind the Astros for that first wild card spot. And Boston, same thing. Boston, same thing. All of a sudden playing really good baseball since the deadline, and theirs was more addition or subtraction rather than it was addition, but the young core blossoming at the right time and just playing over their heads for the last month or so in the playoff picture now when it looked like they were going to be way out of it. And the Yankees, who were once, cruising seemingly at the top of the league in the Eastern Division, hit a real lull and have sunk all the way down to where they're just a half game in the playoffs if they were to start today. The Guardians also playing better baseball, making it up to just behind the Yankees for that last wild card spot. So the national or the American League has gotten real interesting in a hurry. Things are tight because even if you look at the Rangers, the next team that would be in, they're only 2.5 games out. The Royals are 4 games back, but they kind of, sold things at the deadline. Doubtful that they go back into it. And, Tampa Bay did fall kind of far out of it, even though they had been playing well. Probably not any position where they're going to, but could make a late run. Just an incredible change of events when you look at the American League since, like I said, the last time we've done a show, and even since the trade deadline, because it kind of solidified things for some of these teams. And the Yankees tried to add a bunch more pieces, has not panned out for them. And Devin Williams has, during that time, slid back to some of his early season ways where he struggled a lot. Sounds like he's been moved out of the closer role again, at least temporarily, until he can get his footing back underneath. But not good in New York. Great for the rest of us, though. Like I'm absolutely loving. If the Braves are going to have a season that ends in just complete and utter disappointment, as it has been cruising to, as long as the New York teams are not in the conversation or at least flailing, it works for me. Let's jump over to the National League where the best team in all of baseball resides. And of course, you're probably thinking it's got to be the Dodgers or the Phillies, maybe even those Mets. Nope, not even close. It's the team that we all predicted would be there at the beginning of the season. I'm pretty sure it's the one that we said was most likely to not make the playoffs after having been there last year. The Milwaukee Brewers have
freaking get it, man.
9 games in a row and sit atop of baseball with the best record at 73-44. I'd love to be able to tell you how they're doing it, but I have no clue. Honest to God, everything that the Brewers have done for the last month and a half has been wildly bizarre to me. They just keep on winning. And it hasn't been the usual suspects. You think maybe Jackson Churio is carrying him. Nah, he's doing fine. He's in the mix. They don't really have much of a superstar core. Their pitching staff isn't littered with all-stars. They just go out there and get it done every day. And the Central Division there in the National League is also pretty tight. So it's not as if with the Cubs having played the way they've played all season, they're still 4.5 games back of the Brewers at this point. And they had started the season on fire and again looked like they were going to run away with things. But I'd love to be able to talk to you more about the Brewers. I just don't get it. Dude, it's the weirdest thing. Maybe you have a little bit more insight with the Reds and following it along.
No,
I got nothing, because when I look at this team and I look at what they've done and how they're playing, I mean, it's great to see, but it makes no sense just on the surface. I don't know what to think about this team.
Yeah, I mean, I sit there and I look and I'm stunned, and I mean, none of it makes any sense at all. And it's a team, like we had said, that there was no way this team was going to be this good, and here they are, man. I don't get it. I really don't. I mean, I want to say I picked them to finish second or third in the division. I mean, they're kicking the crap out of everybody. I mean, it's like everything that organization touches right now is turning to gold, and good on them. Like, we were talking, I've talked to a couple people, obviously, here in Cincinnati about, like the Reds and everything like that. And it's like, man, I just wish we could be the Brewers. Like, I want to be like them. like whatever they're doing, I want that, because this is, it's simply amazing. This team is on a flat out roll with a team that is not, expected to be this good. And here they are. They just continue to defy any expectations. It's absolutely incredible. And for them to be a division rival, I can't really be too excited, but it's impressive. It really is. And good on them, because again, this was a team with, expectation wise, we're not there for, at least in my eyes. And I think you might have had them second in the division, I believe, but man, not honestly, like this. Though.
I don't remember, but I remember thinking, like I said, that they were most likely of all the playoff teams to not be able to repeat, just because the division was good. The Cubs were a lot better, and I expected the Reds with Francona to be real super competitive. I believe I had them finishing third behind the Cubs and the Reds. Again, mostly due to the fact that the Brewers lost, Willie Adames, their best hitter from a season ago. They kept losing guys in free agency, and they've been replacing them with younger guys, but the younger guys hadn't really taken off in a lot of ways. They're just kind of getting their feet wet, and they're good, not great. But that collection of good, not great has gotten. These guys have resurrected the career of one Andrew Vaughn in what seemed like a throwaway trade of a salary dump of Savali to the White Sox a couple of weeks before the deadline. Andrew Vaughn went to the minor leagues when he got to the Brewers, was there for a week or so, started hitting down there. They brought him up, and he's been killing it ever since. This is a guy who couldn't really hack it. Former high draft pick, top 10 draft pick once upon a time for the White Sox, could never get it going. Had shown flashes, a little bit of promise a couple of years ago, had 20 home runs, but this season was just dreadful. And the White Sox finally decided it was time to move on. And again, like you stated, everything the Brewers have touched recently has been magical. So they've been able to work their magic with Andrew Vaughn, and they're riding his hot streak for right now. So he's been carrying the offense and the pitching. They got Brandon Woodruff back from the IL finally after he hadn't pitched for 2 years, and he's looked good. But between Peralta and the guys in that rotation, that I remember at the beginning of the season, they made the trade for Bailey Falter because they didn't have enough starters. They just were trading with Boston, overpaid to get him. And everybody was like, wow, they're only doing this because they had so many guys on the injured list. They were just trying to have 5 starters to start the season. And then you look up, guys started coming off the IL. They've stayed healthy since. Brewers have been, Jacob Mizorowski went down and after the short burst on the scene that he had, where he'd just been amazing. They had to shut him down for a little while. It may just be to preserve innings, but he's looked great. And really, it's been that they haven't had enough room for all the guys that they have now because everybody's healthy. Everything has fallen perfectly into place if you're a Brewers fan. And, I don't want to get ahead of myself, and I usually am not one to say, this is happening, but how great would it be if after the passing of Bob Uecker that this season where they're honoring him and, his memory is very fresh in the minds of many Brewers fans and the team, like this be the season that they go on ahead and hoist that trophy. That'd be a pretty amazing story, again, with such a collection of talent that you're just looking at it like, this is your best team in baseball in nearly halfway through August. Just an awesome story, really.
Oh no! Could you imagine?
No, I couldn't. It just kind of came to me as I was talking through it. I'm like, God, with Uecker passing in January, it would be pretty incredible that this be the year that that they win the World Series finally. Unfortunate that he wouldn't be there for, along for the ride and be able to celebrate. But I can just imagine the stories about, being able to feel that presence and having won this one to honor his memory. So it'd be pretty cool. I got to say that, besides that fact, I'm rooting for the Brewers to continue on because, again, not one of the tiers of teams that I can't stand. So, I'm wishing Milwaukee well the rest of the way, but I also know that this roster, when you look at it, they're going to have to keep overperforming through the playoffs if they want to get to that because they just don't have the names like on paper. Like this team is not that scary. So
no, but
I don't know how much more we expect.
Well, we say that, but then look at how far they've come, though. And I mean, at that point,
Sure.
It's just kind of you look at it and you kind of throw that away just because, it's almost like a total effort attitude when when it comes down to it. Like I said, August 11th right now, this team's the best team in baseball by a few games. Like, I mean, we could be looking at a Toronto-Milwaukee World Series. Like, if you would have told me that, okay.
I'm in for that. Sign me up for it right now.
Oh, me too. Obviously, I'm in. But yeah, I mean, the two top teams in baseball. I mean, you can't. I mean, you scratch your head because again, you don't think it's that it was going to play out this way, but here we are. I mean, it's been fun, and it just shows
as I look at some of the things with the Brewers too, it's like we joke about we don't know ball, but I mean maybe we really don't. The Brewers run differential is 132, which is the best in baseball by quite a large margin. The next closest is the Phillies at plus 90. Like they're not just winning, they're beating the crap out of teams. Like, and they're preventing them from scoring runs at the same time. Like they're doing everything that you look for in a championship contender.
Yeah. As each episode we go, it's more and more evident that we obviously don't know ball. Like we lose credibility each and every freaking episode. It's so bad, man. Oh man. Well, but like I said, I don't think anybody knows ball. If you're going to go off with that, that's but that's the fun part about this game is just seeing things like this, and we had our expectations for some of these teams, and they're living up to it. But you're looking at the Jays who are where they are, and obviously Milwaukee, absolutely housing everybody. It's awesome. It's great for the game, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, if you froze,
no, you're good. You're good. I was actually looking because I had seen a stat earlier, and I didn't see where the Brewers were. And I, of course, can't find it when I'm looking for it. But the Blue Jays had the best record in baseball against winning teams, and I'd be curious to see where the Brewers were in that, because like I said, I noted it because I had seen the Blue Jays at the top of the list, and I'm like, well,
the Jays are 39-27 against teams over 500.
Okay.
Milwaukee is 38-24. So the Jays are, a game or two ahead of Milwaukee when it comes to that. But I mean, other than that, everyone else is relatively, around 500 outside. Well, the Mariners are 36-29. So they're right there. Astros are 33-29. So yeah, it's really, when you look at all the teams here in the top, yeah, you got a couple of that are, that are outliers, and it's seemingly like it's Toronto, Milwaukee, and Seattle are the teams that are.
Yeah, Milwaukee is 38-24 against teams over 500.
Yeah.
Man. So yeah, the Brewers are getting it done in every way possible.
I mean, you have to do it. That you have to be that way.
Oh, absolutely. Otherwise, those are the stats that you really hone in on to see if a team is for real between the run differential and record against winning teams, whether or not they're just beating up on the crap teams and scoring a lot of runs against them. And it's like, no, I mean, they passed the smell test when you talk about the Brewers and the Jays as far as being on top of their respective divisions, on the top of baseball. In the case of the Brewers, there's no real blemishes that you can point to and say, well, this is why, and it won't last, or they look good. Is what it boils down to.
An interesting stat to look at too is expected wins and losses, which is record based on runs scored and runs allowed. And Milwaukee is about where their record is. Milwaukee's expected wins and loss should be 72-45. They're 73-44. So they're a game off of that. But you look at Toronto should be 64-55.
Okay.
And
so got a little bit of luck, but not a ton.
Yeah, based off of that, Toronto should be tied for third in the division behind Boston and the Yankees. So that just shows how the Jays are playing, they're kicking above their weight, which is honestly now looking at it as a little more concerning, as a fan for me, but they definitely are playing above their weight. But then you look at what you're seeing from, Milwaukee, they're just a hell of a lot better than what we thought. It's like, it's an interesting, stat to look at through it's on the standings page. And I was like, I've, really looked at it before, but not like really in depth. It's kind of, working out here, but like every team in the AL Central should be under 500 outside of Detroit based off of that expected wins and loss. And then, I mean, wow. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Well, your Braves should be better than what they are based off of that. So there's that too.
Yeah, still under 500, still overall terrible. So that's cool, I guess.
Could be worse.
Hey, you know what? There's not much to hang your hat on. It's like they should be as good as the Marlins.
Hey, there you go.
Went from World Series favorites in the National League to, hey, should have as many wins as the Marlins. Oh man, that actually makes that stat even more depressing.
Totally does. Oh my god.
Oh god, I thought this season was awful. But let's move on to the trade deadline, because we've kind of tiptoed around and touched on it just a little bit. Wild, absolutely wild. Most action, I think, in especially the last 48 to 36 hours that there's been in years. Just a flurry of moves, and a lot less after the bell rang. Usually it used to be that it seemed like the trade deadline would hit at 4:00 and there would still be trades being announced well into the late evening. And this year, not the case. A lot of action really fast. And then once that deadline hit and the clock struck midnight on everything, everything was pretty much locked in. And what we were left with was a very barren Twins team who unexpectedly just sold everything that wasn't nailed down. That was crazy. And then the other big story of it was the Padres, which we've talked about. Adrian Pereira, we know who he is and what he likes to do, and his disregard for prospects and just really any player. No player is off limits. It seems like the Padres, again, flurry of deals to move into the end of the trade deadline. And I don't know how much better they got, but the moves were wild. Like on paper, they should have been better, but the big shocker was them trading the number 3 overall prospect in baseball to the Athletics, to the rights for Mason Miller, which amazing player and all, but end of the day, a closer who hasn't had that great of a year in comparison to what he had last year. And the bullpen was one of the least concerns of the Padres at the time. They had an amazing bullpen. They had already added a couple pieces, and then it was one of the last big deals to go down. wild movements out of those two teams specifically. Like I said, one franchise in the Padres who look to be pushing all their chips in for yet another playoff run and a potential World Series run, and the Twins, who we came into this year had, after having made the playoffs last year, looking like they were building towards something, just signed that deal with Carlos Correa 2 off seasons ago. He is now back with the Astros, and seriously, they just gutted themselves. Like I mean, I would have imagined that if Jorge Lopez had not been on the IL, that he would have been moved. There was a lot of talk that Joe Ryan was going to get moved. He did not, but I couldn't believe it. Every bullpen piece they had off and gone. So a lot of upset fans there in Minnesota too. I was reading about it today. I had seen some of it, but I was reading through it today in preparation for the show. Just basically felt like they got the rug pulled out from underneath them. And a really winnable division there with Cleveland, Detroit, and the Royals and the White Sox. They had been in the conversation the past few years, a lot of homegrown talent there, and all that's left seemingly is the perpetually injured Byron Buxton and Jorge Lopez. I mean, it's interesting, but I guess they're going to be the next ones to rebuild. Hopefully it doesn't take them as long as those other teams. But your thoughts on the trade deadline, anything that stood out to you outside of the two things that I mentioned, the two teams that made the most moves?
I mean, the two teams that I was really excited about were obviously San Diego and Seattle. I think Seattle, in the totality of the teams in the trade, like active in the deadline, they Jerry Dipoto got it done. He got that team way better, acquiring Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez. They had two huge needs, in the corner infield. And what did they do? They addressed them both from the same team at different times, which is really funny. But, bringing in Eugenio Suarez again at third. And then, like I said, Josh Naylor to nail down first base. It's Jerry Dipoto, man, we call him Trader Jerry, and that's what he was. And he's not afraid to make a deal. But again, when it comes down to it, AJ Preller and his just, F prospects. I love it. Dude just doesn't care. But, one of these days it's going to pay off for him. I mean, he is completely, dealt everybody, at one point. And, they get close, but then it's just not close enough. But, to bring in a guy like Mason Miller, and they end up bringing in Ramon Laureano as well. And who was the other? Oh shoot, I just saw. Oh, Ryan O'Hearn from the Orioles. Again, it's like I've said it before on the show. As the line goes, parades or prospects are cool, but parades are cooler. If San Diego wins the World Series, then guess what? None of it matters because they finally got the World Series. And I mean, it's a great team. They're chasing a Dodgers team that's been kind of, I don't want to say on the rocks, but as it stands right now and looking at it, they're 5-5 in their last 10, and they're only 2 games up on San Diego. And it's that division's ripe for the taking. But then you look at what Seattle did, like I said, and they crawled now to within a half game back now of Houston in the division, 9-1 in their last 10 for Seattle. And now they head out to Baltimore beginning tomorrow. So, it's huge. Sometimes these deals, they mean so much to a team. They give an extra shot of confidence to a ball club that, just needs, that confidence, like, hey, the front office believes in us. And if you're a San Diego Padre player, damn well that AJ Preller is going to improve the ball club. It's just going to be at what cost, is it? But me, like a total dumbass, I went on X on Spaces on the Backwards K account right at the trade deadline and basically said the season was over for the Reds because, here they are. They go out and they acquire keep Brian Hayes, which I like, but wasn't a big bet. And they go out and get Miguel Andujar and Zach Littell, while AJ Preller's out there dealing for the best, one of the best closers in the game, and just huge pieces to help add into that ball club. And I'm like, well, the season's over for the Reds, and again, it's probably a lot of it was just pure emotion right at the beginning, but this was a fun trade deadline. It really was. It was pretty crazy. I know, Scott, you had talked about the Yankees and the pieces they brought in, and those guys have fallen on their face. Like David Bednar was kind of a head scratcher to me. I didn't think that was that one
didn't move the needle a whole lot for you.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought I don't mind Bednar. He's fine, but they gave up quite a bit to get him.
They did. He's completely sucked this year too. Like he wasn't like.
He at one point got sent down to the minors back in April because he was that bad for the Pirates. I mean, the Pirates don't have many options behind him, and this was like his third year in a row, kind of struggling. So they felt like they had to send him down there to get right. Now he did go down there and was only there for a little bit, and came back and was fine, but the package that New York sent for him was a little head scratching. I believe he's also a free agent at the end of the season too. So
I think you're right.
Made it even more confusing.
One deal I really did like. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, you're good. Go for it.
Was the Ryan McMahon deal? I think that was a really good pickup for the Yankees. As much as I hate to admit it, I really like Ryan McMahon.
And that was one of the ones that kind of kicked everything off. That happened like the Saturday before the trade deadline. And I know they had been trying really hard to get a third baseman so that they could move Jazz off of third base and back to second base. And I had heard his name but a lot. They were super in on Eugenio Suarez.
I was going to say Suarez.
They refused to trade Spencer Jones, their top prospect, who had just before the trade deadline was going off in AAA. And then he got hurt and kind of slowed down. But any deal that the Yankees came out and said that the only deal that they would have included Spencer Jones in was a deal for Skeens. So that's what that's the value that they placed on Spencer Jones. So they went and shopped in the bargain bin for Ryan McMahon, but a solid enough deal when you're talking about a lot of it was to just have a really competent defensive third baseman over there instead of having Jazz boot balls all over the infield for the spot. So
okay, now here's a question. This is going to be kind of off topic, but not really. Yes and no, it is actually. We talk about, prospect hugging and valuing your prospects.
Sure.
Do you think the Yankees overvalue their prospects, or is it a situation to where the lights in the Bronx are just way too bright for some of these guys? And I'm not saying these guys suck, because if they go, the example is Anthony Volpe. That dude does not suck. He's a good ball player. And damn well if he goes somewhere else, he's going to shine. But is he that? I mean, you see what I'm saying?
I think it's a combination of a couple of things. In the specific case of Anthony Volpe, it being the guy who followed the guy was always going to be a struggle for whoever it was. And, before they found a guy that they thought was, going to be the next guy, they had just a bunch of throwaway guys at short after Jeter, and just, they were trying to anoint that next one and kept trying. And then it was, well, here's the guy. And he has that pressure kind of placed on him unfairly, artificially.
It is unfair, yeah.
And so I think in his case, it's like there isn't any chance to grow because you're immediately thrust into, well, hey, you're supposed to be our savior. And I just think that's a tough thing to do for anybody to really put in that position. But then when you talk about their prospects over, like, I wouldn't say the last 20 years, just in general, I feel like a lot of their guys get overhyped and end up getting traded off and sucking elsewhere. Like,
that's kind of
for
what
whatever
I'm thinking,
reason. Their guys, I mean, look, I think Spencer Jones looks like he could be really good, but I was like, you know what? If he ends up getting traded for a big piece or something, watch him go somewhere and suck. Like, I just had this feeling. There were a lot of talks about prior to his really surge just before the trade deadline that he was going to struggle at the major league level because the strikeout rate is close to 30. And even though he hits a lot of home runs, a lot of holes in his swing, and they were like, the reports are that he's going to get to the league and get exposed, and it's not necessarily going to work how they think it is.
Like
but
Jason Dominguez, yeah.
Right, but then their reluctance to include him in deals, I don't know. Maybe they also thought, hey, we could swing for a big trade in the off season, and he could be one of our main selling pieces. So why do it for a rental? But then you go and overpay for David Bednar. So who the fuck knows? I mean,
true, good point. Yeah,
it's like sometimes you don't know what Cashman is doing. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of factors that go into the Yankees, their prospects, and how they both succeed inside and out of their organization, and how they're like valued, particularly because it seems like no matter what, somehow, some way, the Yankees prospects, no matter how mediocre that their careers end up going, a lot of them feel like they do.
Yeah,
they get super hyped up along the way. Like
I just think it's the pinstripes, man. I think that's what it. But like, I mean, every team values their prospects very high. I mean, that's obvious.
Sure, but like,
but it's like
a lot of times across the industry. Like, I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn on this, but like the Braves are known to have a lot of good prospects and a lot of guys that end up developing in the league.
Yeah,
wherever Atlanta like has them in their system or where they took them in the draft, regardless, they're highly regarded. But they usually end up turning out. So there's like a handful of organizations that are usually known for having a better eye at just amassing talent, no matter how they get it. And while the Yankees seem to get the benefit of the doubt a lot of times, like, I don't know if it's because once they start to show any sort of promise, they immediately get comparisons of only Hall of Famers. Like, it's always like, oh, could this be the next Mickey Mantle? Or, could this be the next Derek Jeter? Like, it's always like that type of level, and then their fans get hyped. And I do think that some of the the baseball world kind of gets infatuated with that idea too. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to say what ultimately it is when it comes to the Yankees prospects, but they do have some sort of thing about them, whether it's in or outside of their organization, and where they ultimately end up.
Yeah, it's really weird. I never.
It is odd.
I mean, it is like literally like, I mean, they just, and I think the ones that,
and I also felt that it's like, not just to mention Jeter, it's like you did have a lot of homegrown guys there for a little bit. Posada came up through their system, and Bernie Williams, like they did have guys that they grew from the farm besides just Jeter. So I think maybe that's some of that is due. But I mean, really though, since that crop, that group, I mean, you can count on one hand who's like blown up to where they're like they've sustained that success. Like, because Ben Rice, he's a really good dude, having a good year. Looks like he might have a promising future, but I don't know that he's ever a future superstar or anything.
No, I mean, he's a good, really serviceable player. Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's weird. Like, I don't know. I was just thinking about that. I'm like, man,
they've definitely had a lot of guys who were high on the like top 100 list that just completely flamed out.
Like, you would be interesting to see
Scotty pointing out that Soriano and Cano were another two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, though, in that same like kind of time frame when everything was going really well when they were buying everybody that they weren't growing.
Well, that's the thing is like, they were able to blend that solid farm system where these guys came up and developed. And then, it would be interesting to see like an AJ Preller. We joke about Preller and how he doesn't care about prospects. It would be very interesting to see like what he would do in
as
New York.
The Yankees GM. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I mean, honestly, I know, you probably ask the fans in New York, there's probably a good amount of them that are just over Cashman, just based on longevity. It's like, maybe it's just time for a new voice. It would be interesting to see what the next GM of the Yankees does, like how that looks like, especially since there is the next GM has no attachment to the former Steinbrenner. Like Cashman was there or George, and so the next time they hire GM, it will be with no attachments to that old regime. So it'd be real interesting to see what somebody like a Preller would do, who has that mentality of, hey, guys in, guys out, don't care as long as it's making the big league team better, like whatever. But I think it would work in New York, and the fact that the fans in that market, they're suckers for names, man.
Oh God, yeah.
They love their names. So despite the rookies and the prospects getting pushed out, and you know how some of these guys are looking these days, where it's like, well, you don't want to get rid of these younger guys because, you know, you see them come up immediately. Like, they don't care if it means that they can get some guys in there that are superstars and household names. So
Exactly. Yep.
and, you know, and in a lot of cases too, I mean, I couldn't blame them if they were going to trade a ass load of picks to get a Paul Skeens if the Pirates had gotten that stupid about how they run their organization and decided that they were going to sell a Paul Skeens.
I mean, what the Yankees could offer is not even close to what any of these other teams could offer for Paul Skeens. Like,
oh no,
if you want to compare, like, if you want to compare farm systems, like the Yankees, what they're going to offer for Skeens is not even going to be close. It's just, there's so many other teams that are going to offer a better package and bring him in. It's not. I mean, I don't know. I just don't get the Yankee hype for Paul Skeens. I don't see it. It's just not going to happen.
I think it's just because any name that ever comes up anywhere in any system. I mean, I've already heard the Ronald Acuna rumors to New York. It's just anytime any team in baseball has a young up-and-coming superstar or an already known superstars, the question is asked, how long until he's in New York or LA at this point? And generally when they say New York, they mean the Yankees. But now that Cohen's got all his super money, I mean, those two will be duking it out for those legs. But, I mean, that's just how it goes. Like, it's
exactly.
The price of doing business with baseball is that the assumption is, hey, the New York and LA teams are going to pony up the dough when it comes time, and they may find themselves in a situation where at the end or close to the end of whatever tenure they have with those teams, they're able to lure them in, you know, in a trade close to the deadline, and then be able to extend them or sign them to that long-term deal once everything goes through. So, I mean, I hope to God Paul Skeens never puts on pinstripes. How about that?
Well, there's no way.
I mean, that's what I hope for. But the likelihood is that he'll put on pinstripes of either the Phillies, the Mets, or the Dodgers. So, you know, either way, or not the Dodgers, rather, the Phillies, the Mets, or the Yankees. And so, you know, either way, I'm sad. It doesn't matter. Somehow I'll end up.
Nah, he's a West Coast kid, man. He's from California. He'll go to.
That just doesn't make me feel any better. I'd love Paul Skeens. How about he stays with yellow? He went to LSU.
Padres.
The yellow. Yeah. Let's get him
we'll
out
go
to
the Padres.
I'm perfectly fine with that. That'll work.
Or maybe
Paul Skeens likes the schools in Colorado. Maybe he can go to Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's worked out once before. Actually, twice, because the fact I just completely forgot. Yeah, he pitched at Air Force.
Yeah,
so you can add that in there too. You got the Hampton and there we go. Oh my Lord.
All righty. Well, let's move on. Again, you know, it's so much that happened at the trade deadline, and it is goes. But now the dust is kind of settled. Everybody's kind of in their places and making these runs. So ultimately, there as many moves as there weren't a lot of like super big names that got moved. There were a lot of like B+ pieces that got that exchange hands. Well, yeah, but I mean, he's a name, but as far as like impact, like, you know, there wasn't anybody that moved that you're like, wow, this really swings the pendulum. Anybody, there wasn't one of those. It wasn't like a Randy Johnson type deal out there.
Yeah,
you know? There's no CC, no CC Bathie. Like, that's what I mean. Like, there was nothing that you're just like, whoa, like this is going to change everything. But there were a lot of deals that, you know, underneath the hood and made a lot of difference. So, but let's move to the final topic of the show. And I mentioned, you know, we always try to give our Reds and Braves updates. And the part of the reason we didn't have a show, we were going to do the show after Chris was sick 2 weeks ago, but I ended up going to the Braves Reds game when they were here that Thursday night. And so we had to push that off. It was going to be on the trade deadline, actually.
That's right. Yeah.
But did go down there and was able to see the disaster that was both teams scoring 8 runs in the 8th inning and just terrible baseball, which led right into the weekend first annual Speedway Classic, which was a disaster. It got compared to Fire Fest. The rain came and ended things Saturday night after an inning into it, and ended up getting pushed back to Sunday. Not Major League Baseball's fault. Can't account for the rain, obviously, but the conditions surrounding the game otherwise, where there was a lack of food, they ran out of beer. The seats, it was one thing when they first announced the seats and some of the seating, it was obvious that it was going to be bad, but then the pictures started coming in about how bad it really was for some of these seats. I mean, seats where the game was completely obstructed of view, and they were going for hundreds of dollars, just an all-around objective disaster. And it was Major League Baseball that planned and put this together, right? So the blame falls squarely on them for everything kind of falling apart surrounding it with the food and everything. Traffic was a nightmare. They didn't plan correctly for that. The surrounding area was bad for hotels, and obviously there was tons of people who lost the ability to even attend the game because planned to be there Saturday. Game gets pushed back to Sunday. They had no intention of being there, so just a nightmare all around, Chris. And I don't think this is anything. Oh, they did one good piece of news, I guess, of Major League Baseball, because that's all they pretty much promoted was the fact that it was the highest attended Major League Baseball game ever, over 90,000. Over 90,000 people in attendance, and only probably 10,000 of them went home happy in any sort of capacity. Embarrassing to say the least, honestly, because Major League Baseball is a billion-dollar organization where they plan these things plenty of time in advance, to do this, and they've been able to do the Field of Dreams games without all these issues. Maybe they bit off more than they can chew with this, but I think this is the last experiment of this type. Where do you think they go next with, like, I don't want to say gimmick, that makes it sound like it's a bad thing, but just, doing something like this, because I do enjoy the Field of Dreams games, but this just seemed like it was a bad idea and, at worst, poorly planned.
I mean, it was a good idea. It was just, it was horrifically planned, and that was the problem. Man, honestly, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Field of Dreams game was, it was good. I just stick with that. You can't screw that up. But running out of food and beer, and you can't. And the problem is, so with Bristol being a racetrack, and the same thing happened. Any racetrack you go to, you bring your own food and alcohol and everything like that in. You bring coolers. Well, that's MLB obviously said no. So then you're going to, now you're dealing with a racetrack that can handle 100,000+ people with no problem. And now you're going to take away a lot of, one thing in terms of like concessions, and then you're going to overwhelm everything else because, it was a mess. But hey, MLB, they got the notoriety of the highest attended game. They made their money. There we go. So everyone's all happy in the Major League offices. It just stupid. And then, again, like you said, you can't fault the weather. It is what it is. But why the hell do you start the game
yes.
But then that's going to be a flip side. It was cool to see Chase Burns, but why the hell, Tito? Why would you start Chase Burns that night? It just was like, dude, just hold off and go the next day. And it just, oh my God, it went, just sideways right from the get-go. Good Lord. Again, it was a train wreck. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just stick with the Field of Dreams game. It's a cool visual.
It's also much more baseball speed too. Like, don't get me wrong. No pun intended when you're talking about the race cars and all that. That's not where I'm going. That's just trying to plan an event like this at a
baseball field
venue. Right. Yeah. Right. Like at a venue that's not designed to do it. And then obviously, you bringing up, because I didn't even know that. I've never been to a race, knowing that like food wise and stuff, they're not really equipped for all that, because usually everybody's bringing their own stuff in, and sure, they have facilities, but it's like, that's not what it's used to. I mean, it just sounds like it wasn't thought through. Like, hey, look, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
Do this, like, but the details weren't planned, and then it came to the day of, and it was like, oh crap, we didn't anticipate X, Y, and Z. Well, I mean, that can't happen if you're Major League Baseball. Like, I mean, if you're going to move games away from like fans, because I mean, like, as cool as this was, I like the idea of doing it, and it was cool that the Braves got to participate, but it was like, damn, Cincinnati loses a home game for it, and it lost an opportunity to go see the Braves play again. Like, that's the way I look at it. So then you do this, and it's like you anger all the fans that do get to go to the game, but if you just left it where it was, or had it in a venue that was able to handle it, whatever. It's just like, it just seems very baseball that things went the way that it, and that's I think the most frustrating part is that it's like, oh yeah, that unfortunately sounds like something baseball would do.
Well, like we joked on this, we've said it numerous times on this show. Baseball is kind of baseball. Well, damn it did it again in a situation where we didn't expect it, But here it is. It plays out exactly the way It's stupid. I guess my thing is, it's like, if you're going to go to a venue that is not, I mean, like I said, the visuals were cool. It looked really cool.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like the fan experience, wouldn't you think you would consult like Bristol Motor Speedway that, hey, like, how do you guys handle 150,000 people for a race? Oh, this is what we do. This. Okay, well, you know what? Maybe we can be lax on the, the concessions part of it. Okay. Bring in food, because I mean, like when we go to the Indy 500, that's what we do. You bring in coolers, and it's, I mean, God, we've had Subway, you name it. You're packing all kinds of food and everything like that. It makes things so much easier, and it lightens the load on all those people who are, then they're in the trenches taking grenades because people are waiting 2 hours in line to get a hot dog with no bun, or it's like, I mean, what are you doing? They can't get out of their way sometimes. And it's so frustrating, because what could have been a really cool event, it turned out to be, like you said, Fire Fest in baseball terms, man. It's so dumb, man.
And so unforced air. Like baseball with own unforced air. Just wild that they would allow it. Because, I mean, when I started seeing all the news about the food, I'm like, in something like this, why don't you just over-provide? Like, yeah, okay, you don't want to worry about waste, but if you're expecting to hit like the sales numbers and the attendance numbers that you are, well, hot dogs and making sure you've got enough buns and cheese and all that stuff, it's a drop in the bucket.
It's not hard.
But it's a drop in the bucket with all the revenue. Like you shouldn't worry about if you have it, and then if you've got to throw it away or what the hell ever. In the scheme of things, food is like the least of your concerns when it comes to overhead costs. So like the fact that they screwed that one up, it makes it even worse. Like, come on, man, you couldn't make sure you had enough buns.
Manfred with the backwards K, baby.
Seriously,
it's just
went down looking, man.
I mean, right down the dick, and he just watched it. And so, it's unbelievable. Like you said, we can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, it really isn't.
Yeah, you would think. I didn't think that it would be. Like I said, I didn't expect the news to hit like that. Like,
realistically, how long do you think they have been planning this? I mean, they obviously announced it.
Right. I mean, I would think at least a year and a half out that you've got to have that planned. Like, there's no way that it was just 1 year in the announcement. Like you said, they hold off the announcement, but as far as the planning,
exactly,
you think at least a year and a half.
Exactly. And you mean to tell me in a year and a half you screwed it up this bad? I mean, it's unbelievable. Everyone that I heard, I had heard a couple people who, I don't know personally, but who had talked about, that they were down there, were like, I'm never going back. Like,
that was again,
I will never go back.
That nobody would do it again. Anybody there was like, yep, cool experience, horrible, like actual like event taking place, like wouldn't do it again. 0 out of 10 would recommend. Like, which is unfortunate because I would like for them to do as many these different type of games to try to get more fans interested, and the jerseys were cool, the like everything surrounding it, but the actual execution just very, very piss poor, unfortunately.
Yep.
Baseball. It's kind of like this looming foreseeable work stoppage that we're going to have at the end of next season that we know is, it's barely not as us. And here we are, plenty of time to try to get ahead of it and maybe start, doing some things where they can, and no, baseball will wait until it'll be about this time next year when we're hearing the rumblings of how it's inevitable we're having a work stoppage.
No shit.
The season right now. Over. Yeah,
exactly.
Like expect it, because that's how it always goes. They have they sign 10-year deals and wait till the last 3 months that are like, there's no way we can get this done. Work stoppage coming. It's like, what the fuck, man? Every time.
I know. It's truly impressive that they fumble things like that. It's incredible. It really is.
Sometimes I hate baseball so much it hurts.
I know. I still love it.
I know. I love it so much, but the dumb things that they do and the dumb things that happen around the professional part of the sport, it just, it's infuriating sometimes.
Glutton for punishment is what it comes down to.
That's true.
We love to get kicked in the teeth. That's what, that's what we do best. God, it's so frustrating.
But I should also mention, too, over the weekend, somebody talking about the Braves, but Major League Baseball making history. First female umpire calling games down in Atlanta for the Marlins and Braves series on there. Very cool story, although, I don't know. Again, it seems like baseball is really lagging behind because there's been plenty of female officials in the other sports. So nice that baseball finally caught up to the times. But hopefully this can be a non-story going forward because there'll just be more. Like it'll just be just another umpire.
There was a lot to be made about her first call. The first pitch was inside. She called it a strike. Looking at the ump scorecard for it, she wasn't that bad. So she wasn't CB Buckner or Angel Hernandez bad. So there's that. There we go.
The bar was pretty low for her.
Yeah. But again, in all seriousness, looking at her scorecard, it wasn't, I'll pull it up here. I saved it. I meant to send it to you earlier.
I hadn't seen it. No, I had just heard that it was fine and that she did, an amicable job. A big moment for the sport, and definitely making history and all that. But it is nice that now hopefully it's just a normal thing.
Exactly.
Be a big deal. And I wish her the best and any other female umpire that's coming out. Also, doesn't change my stance. Robo umps now.
Okay. Speaking of that, can we compromise on the challenge system with the strikes? The challenge system, can we do that?
Okay, go ahead. What are we compromising on? I'm listening. Go ahead.
Not full blown automatic. You still have the human umpire back there calling balls and strikes.
Okay, so umpire's still back there. Okay,
and then being able to challenge it, what we saw in the All-Star game. Simple tap, done, and then it's 30. They're 5 seconds, boom, done. Tells you whether.
I'm all for a challenge system as long as it works. As long as
that works, and I'm okay to go that far.
Right, and I'm fine with that as long as there's not stipulations and circumstances that. We can compromise. This doesn't have to be all or nothing thing. I just want more correct calls. At the end of the day, I just want the calls correct. However, we got to get there. However, that's got to happen, and the challenge system just needs to work properly. I've said this before.
But if you
whenever we talk about other sports, but it's tennis. Tennis has the best challenge system. They get the calls right with their replay system and how it's implemented and everything. And there's no doubt when they go to the video and go to the computer systems, boom, that ball was in or out or it hit the line or whatever it may be. That's what I want for baseball. If there's a question, if anybody has a question, boom, let's go to the video, let's go to the replay, whatever it is, whatever system they've set up, get it right. That's all I want. So
Did you like it in the All-Star game?
For that. Yeah, no, that worked. You know?
That's what I'm all about. Okay, there we go.
Then let's go.
Let's do
it. We've met in the middle. We did. Let's move on to Russia and Ukraine. We'll solve that next.
We've got a lot we can solve, I think.
I mean, we seem to be on warring sides of this before, but now that we've come together, there you go. But yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, like I just want calls correct. So it doesn't matter how we get there. I think that is just the most important part is that baseball get their calls correct. I do think that as we phase some of the older school umps out, that like the newer umps and the current crop of umps that we have are getting better and more consistent. And there are less, Angel Hernandez and CB Buckners and those type of guys. That's great. I want to make sure that those scorecards and those review systems that they have for just the job that the umpires did, like they keeping them on task, like making sure that they're held accountable for calling bad games or having low scorecards, whatever it may be, like, and getting punished or, making sure that they're not in a position to call big games. However it is, the goal is accuracy. So I just want to make sure that we're getting there.
Yeah. I mean, and looking at her scorecard, I mean, for the first time she's ever been behind the plate calling, balls and strikes in a major league game, she was, looks like overall accuracy of 93%. She had 5 of 104 called balls were true strikes. So she missed 5, which, I mean, and looking at
that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, they were in and up. I mean, so, okay. They were on the border. She had, so she was 95% accurate on calling balls, 87% accurate on calling strikes. She called 6 of 47 strikes were true balls, and those were the ones that were outside. So she was consistent on, well, for the most part, because there was one that was high and one that was low. But overall, I mean,
her strike zone wasn't all over the place.
No, it wasn't. Like, in looking at it, I sent it to you, so that way, I mean, you'll have a text to you. But like overall, she was 93% consistent. I mean, again, overall, I mean, it's not not bad. I mean, again, it's, I'm okay with something like that. I mean, and that's, with it being, it wasn't egregious by any means. I mean, looking at that, she did a good job, and that's, and I'm okay with, because there's probably a couple times in there that a guy would, tap the hat or the helmet, and hey, I'm going to challenge that. Boom, done. There we go. And there you go. So I'm just glad we were, we found common ground on that. Because at the beginning of the year, we were kind of like, we were going at it.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I am very quick to say robo umps. Let's just get and I don't want that necessarily. I just want close to perfection as we can possibly get. And if that has a machine, like, or if it's a hybrid of machine man, that's fine too. I just want calls right. I just don't want to ever look at the umpire and be like, what the hell was that? Or, the replayers where they show foot outside that gets rung up or whatever it may be. Like, I just want to make sure they're good. So, and I know I said that would be one of the last things I mentioned, but we do have to touch on just before we get out of here. Cleveland is the gambling capital of the world, apparently. Because while we're gone, Luis Ortiz had been popped about 2 months ago now in a gambling probe, and that was supposed to be he was put on a paid suspension through the end of this month. His locker has since been cleaned out, but also since we had that news and since we had done a show, his teammate and perennial all-star Class A, the closer there in Cleveland, also popped for potential cheating, violation, gambling, very similar to Ortiz. His locker been cleaned out as well. So Emmanuel Class A, Luis Ortiz, and the Cleveland Guardians have a gambling problem.
Dude, it's ridiculous.
I don't know what else to say other than I don't know what these guys are thinking and why they're doing it. And obviously, it's a situation where one or the other, involved the other one in this. Like, I got to believe that they somehow colluded on this, for lack of a better word, and that eventually one getting busted meant that the other one would be as well. But it's just sad that you see anybody get it suspended or taken out of the game for stupid decisions. I mean, PEDs are one thing, but gambling, man, it's right there, and nobody can do it. You're banned from the game once you do get caught doing it. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know the specifics of these cases and how much money is at stake and it doesn't really matter because you're doing it. But it's odd and it's weird that these guys, and especially in somebody in Class A's position who had signed a decent enough big money deal to beat the closer there, is an all-star, has done all these things, and then gets popped for gambling. Like, they haven't announced anything as far as the investigation goes. But like I said, their lockers are cleared out in Cleveland. They don't have spots. So at the very least, they won't play again this season. And I imagine that Major League Baseball will probably try to keep the news under wraps until like into the postseason or sometime when they can bury it so that it's not, at the forefront of whatever they've got going on with the playoff chase. Like, I don't think that they want news about gambling coming out during the postseason and whatnot, but not good, Bob. Not good at all. Like I said, the 31st was the date that they had originally announced for Ortiz, and when they had planned to wrap up the investigation, or that's when he was suspended until. But doesn't look like we'll be seeing either of them pitch for Cleveland again this year, and maybe ever again in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it's hard when you when you get in bed with these, betting companies, man. It's a tough look, especially. I mean, it I don't know. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, everything's under the microscope.
You just kind of
I know everything's under the microscope. Like, ever since, I know there's a lot of people out there that'll say, well, baseball and all these professional sports, they're in bed with the gambling companies now, and the lines have been blurred, and maybe, but at the end of the day, just don't gamble. Like, I mean, you cannot gamble on the sport that you play, plain and simple. Like, that's all there is to it. And I mean, if you don't have the self-control, or that rule's too hard for you to follow, like, this is going to be the outcome. And it's embarrassing for the players. It's embarrassing for the organization, embarrassing for the league, but it is what it is. You can't allow it to happen because it fundamentally changes the game. So it just sucks like that. It happened twice in a season, and both on the same squad. So rough time to be a Cleveland fan. Although hey, it hasn't really affected Cleveland. They're only a half game back in the last wild card spot.
I'm saying they're rolling, so it doesn't matter.
Who needs a manual Class A? And
my God,
when you're playing baseball again, I mean, maybe the Braves should get some guys who gamble. Maybe win some. No, maybe then they'd be able to hit their win expectancy and be as good as the Marlins.
Go on an absolute heater, and there you go.
with some cheaters, with some gamblers.
Some absolute degenerates are going to take you to the playoffs.
I get degenerates are better than injured players, I guess.
Well, that's true. Good point.
Well, I think that's a good spot to leave it. There was a lot to catch up on, a lot to get back into, but we are back, and hopefully we will be taking things the rest of the way down the stretch.
Yeah.
By the end of the week, then it's the home stretch. So lots of playoff races to be decided, lots of exciting things that can happen down the stretch. I hope that the main thing is that the Yankees just somehow keep on fading right on into oblivion. That would be the best. But this has been another episode of the Backwards K Baseball Show. I am your host, Scott. With me has been Chris, and we appreciate you guys joining us for another episode. We are here every Monday-ish every Monday that we aren't in attendance at baseball games or sick or have a million and one things going on. We love doing the show, and we do it as often as we can. But we appreciate the support that you guys give us. This has been another episode of Backwards K. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, the Impact Sports Cincinnati Podcasting Network, as well as the Craft Brewed Podcasting Sports Network. And we're on YouTube whenever we go live. Thanks again for joining us, everybody, and we will see you again on the next episode of Backwards K. Good night, everybody.